to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and as always with me is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Stephen. Doing good. We are back here once again for another episode of Chasing Labels. This is spy number 44, if memory serves.
It serves you this time.
It serves correctly. Good. I was almost forgetting where we were. I forget every single week, and then every single week we have to remind ourselves where we are in our own podcast.
It's like, when you're a collector, you forget what you have sometimes.
Oh, goodness,
you forget and then you end up double buying, and then if you get into triple buying, I don't know what to do for you. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I've been in a store and have looked at something and thought, do I have that? Do I not have that? Where is that? And I can't. Well,
that's why you have to get an app. Like, I have an app that has my whole collection on it, so I know what I have, and if I'll just get on there and be like, type in the title, I'm like, okay, I got that already. I don't need to buy that.
Yeah, I have the Blu-ray.com app. It's not a great app, but it'll at least function like that, which I guess is nice.
That works.
But getting to the task at hand, Stephen, we have.
I was going to say, before we introduce our guests, of course, we have another great guest this week. I do want a little housekeeping. I wanted to, because I know you brought it up on the last episode, but I wanted to put it at the top of the episode just so that people know. Last Friday, we were guests on another podcast, the Indicator Cast, just focusing on the Indicator brand, and we were guests on there, and we talked about the Humphrey Bogart set, and I think it was the May releases, right? Or the June?
I think they're the June releases.
Yes. So we've had Jonathan Matthews on here before, and also Matt Schley, and we went over to their podcast and talked with them. So if you have not yet, go over to the Indicator Cast podcast and listen to that, and listen to their previous episodes and future episodes. And
we both had a great time talking those June releases. Humphrey Bogart's set, Columbia Noir #5, as well as Pastor Hall, I believe a hidden gem put out by Indicator.
I can't wait to watch it.
I can't wait till people actually get to see it.
I can't wait to watch it. But with that housekeeping out of the way, I do want to introduce our new guest here. So she's coming from the UK. She's here to intimidate us with her doctorate in women's surrealism. And I'm completely fascinated with what she's going to have to say, because it's a subject matter I'm not well versed in. And
yeah, I absolutely love surrealism, so this is going to be a fascinating discussion as these all are.
And she's also a lover of like hard rock bands and of the '80s, and I'm sure various music.
We will. I do want to delve into all of those things, because we are mutual fans of the same music, as many of us are here. And we talked about last week.
And last week with Keith, we talked a lot of music stuff too. And then of course she's a big lover of cats. I see cats all over her Instagram, and and I got a new cat, and so I just seeing what I'm going to have to go through my life. It's just great. But as you can hear her laughing, Dr. Sabina Stent is with us. How you doing?
Hi, I'm really good, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. That was really nice. That was really kind.
Very well.
Yeah,
I'm really pleased to be on.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you coming on, and I had been you followed us on Twitter, and then I started following you, and I started keeping up with you, and saw what you were into, and looked at your site, and I was like, okay, we need to talk to her, because she's into some interesting stuff, and
right.
Part of why we do this show, part of why we started podcasting in general, is because our first podcast was called Cinema Discovery Project, and we always wanted to keep discovering new things, and we want to continue that with this show. Not only just things that we know, but just discovering different parts of art in general, and that's really what you do with what you have. Please tell us about your history. Well, we'll get into your background, like your beginnings, but like what you've studied and what you're into and what you do now.
Yeah. So my main area is I work on women surrealists, and that's like my main area of research. That's what the bulk of my sort of degrees in my doctorate was in. But I kind of branch out a little bit. In terms of writing, I write about various things. I'm really interested in real crime, so I've written on real crime. I've written on film, which is obviously links into surrealism as well. So I in terms of background, I really came to it the long way, because when I was I was rubbish at school. to find a point on it, I was rubbish. And it was one of these things where nothing interested me. Just nothing interested me.
A lot of times with school, it's,
Yeah.
they don't, I think everything's pretty, I mean, at least in America, everything's pretty standardized. And,
Yes.
so there's not a lot of room for like discovering something interesting outside of the norm. So I think that happens with a lot of us, that later
Yeah.
on we figure out something that we actually are really interested in when we're a little older, and,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And it was, I went to school, and it was kind of, it was a bit stuffy and a bit restrictive. And I was like from a kind of I'm from a working class family in Birmingham. So obviously you were having people there whose, parents and dads were coming in with the briefcases, and my dad was coming to collect me with an Iron Maiden t-shirt, which obviously was kind of a different thing. So I had like a completely different, my home life with, the TV was my babysitter. Really, I didn't have a babysitter. I was just put in front of a TV from when I was an infant. And that's how I discovered a lot of films, because my parents are film lovers. And so they watch pretty much everything and anything. So in terms of surrealism, I came to it really long way, because I left school and then I worked, and then I did a media diploma. So I did that, and then I did a master's, and the master's was on European studies, like European cultures. And I was doing some French studies, I was doing some gender theory, and I was doing some film as part of that. And I had done some film as part of my undergraduate degree. But when I was doing my master's, we were watching like Mikhail Haneke and things like that, and we were looking at various elements of French society and French, not so much literature, but French media. And I had to do a dissertation, and I was asked, what would you like to do it on? And this is, bear in mind, I wasn't an academic like at school at all. I was told I would never go to university by my school, because they said you haven't got it in you. So there you go. And I really liked at the time, because obviously this really opened me up. I was like, what I really like Salvador Dali. And I had read a small book on surrealism, and it was saying Frida Kahlo and other women surrealists, and that was it. And this was about 2006, something like that. And I was thinking, I read this book, and I was like, well, where are the other women surrealists? It mentions Frida Kahlo, like, where are these other women? Like you mentioned. So I was paired with the supervisor, and he was really, really great guy. He's still a friend, Stephen Forster, who's amazing. And his specialism is Dadaism. And so we were having a chat, and I said to him, he was saying, well, is there anything, I heard you want to do something on surrealism, anything in particular? And I said, well, I read this comment about women surrealists, and I'd like to, investigate that a little bit. And he was like, great, yeah, that sounds really good. That'd be even interesting to me. So we'll go on this kind of journey together. And that was it. That was the start of it, really. And I was very, very fortunate, because in 2007, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, they held this massive exhibition called surrealism objects, or surrealist objects, or something like that. And it was huge, and it was, I know, I don't want to say like it was life-changing or anything, but it kind of was, because you had so much, everything there, most of the stuff there was by women surrealists. So you had things like by Mary Oppenheim, Dorothea Tanning, Elsa Schiaparelli, who's someone I've worked on probably more than anyone else. And so you're seeing everything up close, and you're like, wow, I didn't know it kind of went this wide. And so at this time, it felt like it was kind of a small pool, like, with people working on it. Cut to now, and there's so, it's brilliant now. You have loads of young women working on this subject as well, opening it up. All of us who've worked on it for quite a while, constantly surprised by what everyone's coming out with, because it's also fascinating, and it doesn't seem to there's constant rediscovery for these women. People are constantly being rediscovered, like Leonora Carrington a couple of years ago. It was like the year of Leonora Carrington. Everybody was really interested in her. Everyone was becoming interested in her. She has had such a major what's the word, resurgence, because she was well known decades ago, but I think I've been very fortunate to be in an era where more and more people are discovering who these women are. So when I did my dissertation, and then on my master's, and then I was offered a scholarship for a PhD, and I took it, and was an extended version really of my master's, and I've been running with it ever since. So that's my convoluted story of how I got into it.
Oh no, I like the detail there. Got a little bit. It went everywhere.
Yeah.
But so how do you some people would look at somebody that gets an arts degree basically like that as like, what do you do with that? So what do you do with that? Other than we know you're a writer. How is that? Are you able to do you do any teaching? Do you do any lectures? Do you do any things like that? Or
yeah, I've done a few public lectures, quite a few. I didn't go afterwards. I never went into academia, so I didn't stay there, mainly because I wasn't offered teaching, and so I didn't pursue that route. And also the academic environment, I think it has to be the right fit for certain people. And I was interested in pursuing other things, not just new, but other things as well, alongside. But I've done public lectures I've done a few at Treadwell's bookstore in London. I've done conferences, edited. I've had a couple of things in edited volumes. I've obviously I supplement it with other things you have to in this economy. But in terms of in terms of surrealism, that's what I do, and I'm constantly trying to develop projects and things like that, possibly either book projects or things, and try and get a few of those on the ground, because I think you always tend to have about 3 ideas at any one time, thinking this could be a book, and I'm trying to pursue and develop a couple of things at the minute. Just have to keep working on it until someone's interested. So
is your interest purely in spreading the word on it, or is there some more interest in actually getting engaged personally with being a surrealist yourself? Are you
I don't know if I adhere to the group's philosophy per se, because it was traditionally it's quite a misogynistic movement, and a lot of the women didn't like to be labelled as a surrealist. Some of them were fine with it. A lot of them found great creativity in being a part of that movement, but they didn't necessarily agree with all the politics, and they didn't agree with a lot of the male ego in that group. There was quite a few male egos of the biggest variety. So I think I like their sense of artistic freedom and creativity, and a lot of them they marched to the beat of their own drum, and they wouldn't be pinned down any which way. And I think that's even nice creatively, because I don't like to restrict myself and put myself in any one box, because I think there's we all have more than one interest, and I think and a lot of these women, they didn't work on any one discipline. They worked in they painted, they worked in theatre design, they worked in fashion, they worked sometimes in film. So there's a lot out there, and I think it's just seeing the gamut of what they did. And it's interesting if you look at someone like Lee Miller, who kind of did the full circle. You know, she started out as a surrealist, then she kind of left the movement, and then she kind of, through her husband, Roland Penrose, she found her way back to the group that she had kind of parted with all those years earlier. So I think it's always interesting, and I think it's we can't really rule anything out.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you're that particular scenario there, it's always good to go outside your comfort zone, and her doing that just to experience what the other side has to offer, is
I think Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was just gonna say, I think surrealism in general, I think you could speak to it as well, is kind of penetrates or kind of goes through many different art forms. You know, as you're saying. So, and there's probably so much nuance to it in terms of different schools of thought, different interpretations, different expressions of surrealism in different ways. So, I would guess what I'm asking is, what is your specific favorite, I guess, medium of surrealism? What have you gravitated towards? I know you've mentioned, of course, writing and art and education and art and stuff like that. But what is your favorite medium in terms of those things?
It's, it really depends what I'm working on at the time. And I found this a few times. It's the same with certain artists. I tend to gravitate towards certain ones in certain periods of time. I really like photography. I think I really like photography because I really like Lee Miller and Dora Maar. Obviously painting, and people like Dorothea Tanning and Leonard Carrington, Remedios Varo. But I'm really interested in the fashion side. Elsa Schiaparelli, who I think is a wonder, and I think she should be even as revered as Edith Head, but obviously she doesn't have that huge body of work. But I think she should be perhaps a bit more well known in terms of Hollywood film, because I think now you see the House of Schiaparelli dressing A-listers at the Oscars and things like that. So you think her legacy is so involved in film then, and now it seems to be everyone knows who she is now, and it just would be nice if her actual creations, when they were used and who they inspired, would be a bit more recognised.
Yeah, so I guess this is as good an opening as ever to kind of delve into what a little bit of mesh of what we talk about here in cinema and film. Yeah. Where did because I know you're of course a big movie fan, big cinephile and things like that. Where did all of that journey kind of start for you?
It started at home, really. As I say, my parents are big film lovers, so I grew up with watching a lot of Marx Brothers films, as watching Bruce Lee, Betty Davis. I grew up with a mixture of like old Hollywood and Hollywood blockbusters. I grew up, with everything and anything, and we didn't have like censorship in our house, so nothing was kind of out of bounds. It wasn't like, oh no, you're going to sit down and watch this sort of R-rated film, but it was a case of if you want to watch Terminator's on, let's watch Terminator, kind of thing. Or my mum showed me RoboCop when I was about 8 years old because it was a good film and it was on TV. Just like, yeah, let's watch RoboCop. It's a good film. We're gonna watch it. So we didn't really get. I mean, they didn't have that growing up, and I didn't have that growing up. So I think that also was a huge. That helped because I wasn't. Closing myself off to anything. So yeah, it started at home, really, especially things like especially I like Bogart and Bacall, films like that, The Big Sleep, James Dean and things like that, his films, and just absolutely fascination with James Dean and love for James Dean, and all this stuff. I was very lucky in that they started at home.
Yeah, it seems like the home life and leading, how you were raised and to where your profession is. It's the open-mindedness, there's that seems to be the through line there, is that surrealism's and open-mindedness when it comes to art form. And of course, the way you were raised, your parents were very open-minded with letting you experience things that might not necessarily be considered be for kids or for, but I think you can't protect kids from everything. You gotta let them absorb stuff and see how they react, and explain to them that this isn't real, or this, this is make believe, or this, they'll understand.
There's a way in which you can kind of not filter things for children, but a way in which you can
present it,
kind of guide them and present these types of things. Not necessarily throwing them in the deep end of the pool, but maybe gradually getting them towards that point. And I know a lot of us and a lot of our listeners are similar to you in the sense that it all started at home. It all started with perhaps a family member or parents or friends or whoever had gotten us into movies and whatnot. When it comes to a cinematic experience, like going to the theater, was that part of your childhood as well?
Yeah, we because my where my parents worked, it was basically Birmingham city centre, or it was about a 5-10 minute walk away, and at the time there was obviously there's a bunch of cinemas, so it used to be I remember I have really early memories of going to see something like, I don't know, Snow White or the Aristocats or things like that when I was really young. I also remember seeing things like The Jungle Book at the Electric Cinema, which is still is the oldest working cinema in the country. And I know it's changed hands a few times over the years, but it's a really great cinema. It was especially during school holidays, let's go to the pictures and let's see what's on. Nice. I feel it's just, I think it's just a nice outing. I think.
Of course.
We all love doing it. Yeah.
It's such a cultural thing, I think, like a cultural pastime for many of us. I guess expanding outward from that, I know, because I have followed you, I think, on Twitter for many, many years, and it's just, and I noticed that you've gone to film festivals and stuff like that.
Yes.
I know the TCM Film Festival is coming back, and I know you're going to that in the future. I know you've been to that in the past.
Yes.
I think you've gone to the Silent Film Festival in Italy a few times as well, and Pordenone, I think it is.
Pordenone, yes.
Where did all of that kind of need to do that, travel and go to other film festivals, and that whole experience is so unique that I don't think a lot of people get to experience?
I had a period of many years not traveling or not doing anything, or not going away, because originally, my mum is originally from Italy, so any holidays that we used to have, and they weren't like every year, they were maybe every 2 years, we would go for a week or so to see family in Italy. And I know anyone who's visited family will know that it's never a holiday. And, especially when and people have this, especially now, they have this vision of Italy being like that. Have you seen Succession, the last series of Succession, when they're in Tuscany, and have like a vision of that's what it's like when you go and visit your family in Italy? And it's not. It was like all of us in like a very small flat in the middle of a small town with nothing really much there. So everyone used to come back from school holidays going, did you go on holiday? It was like, well, not really. So I was either in Birmingham or I was with my family, so it was never like an out, we never had a holiday. And then after that, I had years of not doing anything during the summer, not going anywhere. And so I had been living in London for period of years, and I got to the point I was like, no, I'm not going to live here. I can't live here anymore. I'm going to go back to Birmingham because, and one of the things was, well, if I go back to Birmingham and I'm not paying London rent, I'll be able to sort of put this money towards travelling. And I had met a lot of the TCM folks on Twitter at the time. So that was a nice impetus to go, oh, you know, let's go meet some people. Let's go meet my friends in America. And so I did that. And I'd never been out of, you know, I'd never left Europe, and I'd never flown across the world on my own before. So I did it once, and that was it. I was hooked, and I've done it since. And in knowing people, you get to know other festivals. And something like Pordenone is really interesting because I do like silent film anyway. I like, Mano and, things like Un Chien Andalou and things like that. And I was interested in silent film, and Mariah Gates had been to it. Mariah Gates, Old Films Flicker. She had been to it once or twice, and she said, "You have to come with me. It's amazing. You know, we'll go to this film festival." And so I've done that for the last couple of years, and that's been really nice. And you just can't believe some of the stuff they have and they've restored, and it's so. It's just so nice to watch this film. We saw a beautiful remastered Queen Christina there a couple of years ago. It was gorgeous with a full orchestra, and it's just, you can't. These experiences are fantastic, and Pordenone is such great value as well. It's really good value to go. So if you like silent film, that's one I really would recommend.
Yeah, I've had one experience of a festival. I went to the Telluride Film Festival in Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Dude, it was amazing. There's something about the festival environment that just kind of just steeps you in cinema. You know, it's like everybody's there for the same thing. Everybody's having I would just have random conversations in lines waiting for movies. You know, a lot of us that are into like all different types of film that are not the mainstream, you have a hard time finding that like person, you know, like at least in person, at least for me. Andrew probably has the same problem. Like,
most definitely.
You don't have a lot of people like around you that are into luckily we have the online community that we can like reach out to and talking to our guests and things like that. But in person, you don't get a lot of that. And so going to a festival and meeting all these people in person that are like there for the same thing, they want to see the filmmakers, they want to see the commentary afterwards with actors, and like it's just a whole like and then with what you just said about the silent film festival, like that's a whole other level that I wish I could be into. Seeing a film with an orchestra live, that would be amazing. Like oh man,
I mean, not to be too connected to what we're talking about, what a surreal experience that must be. You know, just an out of body unique experience. And exactly what Stephen is saying. There is a really strong community of cinephiles on the internet that, like you just mentioned, the TCM community and all that kind of stuff. An incredible community that I didn't know existed until several years ago, until I had actually gotten into TCM, and just discovering all these people who just extreme diehard fans of old Hollywood and classic cinema, and just how educational all of it is, in terms of just that culture is so unique in and of itself that you can really, it's an avenue of cinema that I don't think a lot of people delve into too deeply, and all of you do, and all of us do, I guess, because, I've been delving into it a few years myself. And it's just, it is a wonderful thing to kind of have the communal experience of the love of movies, and it's just it never ceases to amaze me how powerful cinema can be, both on and off of the screen. But when it comes to kind of shifting gears to not your love of movies and all of those things, I know you're a big music fan, gigantic music fan. Where did that start? Because that's a whole other art form in and of itself.
again, home. It's one of these home life things. We had, from when I was little, I remember hearing Guns N' Roses playing, a lot of Iron Maiden, a lot of Ozzy, and obviously being from Birmingham, you got to love Black Sabbath if you're from Birmingham, and you got to love Ozzy. Motorhead, we had everything playing at home. So that's something I just constantly has followed me, and I'm exactly like Johnny Lawrence from Cobra Kai, stuck in the 80s. That's how I feel sometimes, because everyone else has got, has progressed, and I'm just listening to the stuff I've listened to for the last 40 years. So, I like it, and I think over the past couple of years, music and film have been such much needed distractions for all of us, and it's just been nice to kind of delve back into things a lot deeper. And as like music, like with film, you start listening to one thing that leads you down a rabbit hole, and you start listening to other things. Through maybe one band you can discover 5. So I think that's something that is always enjoyable and keeps things fresh.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Now, I promised Stephen that I wouldn't go too out of the lane here with discussing Guns N' Roses, because I went a little bit last week when we talked to Keith Rich about music and whatnot. But I was literally listening to Appetite for Destruction before the show in preparation, as one does. Have you? I guess this will connect the concert experience. Have you gone to concerts? Have you seen some of your favorite bands, specifically Guns N' Roses, and anything like that?
I've seen Velvet Revolver live, but I've
Same
never.
Here.
Yeah, they were good. It
was fantastic.
Yeah,
and they sung some of the songs too.
They did, yeah. I've never seen Guns N' Roses live because I'm because I think there've been a couple of times when I could have, but I'm quite a purist, and I really love Izzy Stradlin, and I just think it's not the same band without him. And I also think I've heard very mixed reviews over more recent concerts in terms of Axl's voice. So I've heard, very mixed bag. And also because the tickets are so expensive.
Oh yeah,
they cost an absolute fortune to see them. They're playing London, I think it's this year, and the tickets are obscene. I'm like, no, you're not worth. I'm sorry, no, thank you.
Very much so. I don't know if anyone else out there listening can hear, but I feel like the older the artist is, usually the tickets are very much more expensive. If it's the Eagles or Bruce Springsteen, Roger Waters or anyone like that, I feel like the tickets are so expensive to sit, not in great seats either, just way out there. I've been fortunate enough to see Guns N' Roses 3 times in my life, 3 different versions of the band, because the lineups have changed so much. I saw them in 2007. I saw them in 2008, right after they had released Chinese Democracy. And I saw them in 2016 when they had that big reunion tour. Yeah. Which was the Not In Your Lifetime tour, because no one thought they would ever get Slash and Duff back and all those, and with Axl and whatnot. And it was 3 different sounds, just because the iterations of the bands were so different and the arenas were so different. And it's interesting to me because I've had this theory for years, and I guess I'll ask Sabina as well, but we'll get off of this and move on. For me, Guns N' Roses, when it comes to where they fit in the history of music, as I've said it here a few times, is they're kind of the bridge between, like 80s metal and glam rock and hair metal, all those things, and the grunge era of the early 90s. I feel like they were that bridge in terms of the same hard rocking sound, but with the edge and the emotion that you would also get with the grunge era into the 90s. And I've always felt like that was kind of where they fit in things. So I want to get your perspective, since you're a big fan as well.
Yeah, I've never really thought I've definitely considered them a bridge between like hard rock and punk, because even punk, you know, like I've heard say like punks like them, you know, glam metalers like them, you know, hard rockers like them.
Yeah.
But I think they're so universal, because I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't really like them, or doesn't, who, you know, everyone would admit they like them. They might like one song, but most people will say they like Guns N' Roses. So I never considered them in relation to grunge before, but I think that's kind of true, because they just have such a universal appeal. And I think Appetite's just such a great album. It just doesn't get old. It's so good.
Yeah.
But I think maybe you can look at, I don't know, because obviously they were largely influenced by Hanoi Rocks. And so I think they kind of taken that sound and just kind of made it, you know, that was one of the elements that really influenced them. And they were such a, you know, a mixed bag of individuals as well. They all came from different musical tastes. So they all brought something to the table. But I think it's nice that, you know, a band like that is still getting traction and still so popular. And I mean, Axl's not the, you know, as a loose cannon as he was, but you know, good luck to him. He seems to be doing
I've watched
better.
that VH1 Behind the Music of
Yes.
Guns N' Roses many times.
Oh, same
and
here.
you just hear the wildest stories. And
yeah.
Axl Rose, for all he is, complicated, probably a jerk for all we know, for all the stories we hear. A true, kind of lives up to that true rock star, rock and roll life. Just, I don't care, I'm doing everything my way, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Very, just kind of that whole rock star life is very fascinating, but that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, I'll skew us a little, somewhat still in there, but you know, one thing I think about with music and film that you don't see as much nowadays is like a legitimate soundtrack, like where you got songs instead of just orchestrated score. So what do you think about that? Do you think that should come back more? I think it should. More like real soundtracks, and not just for films that are like musicals, but like, you know, for instance, like, you know, movies like Forrest Gump have an amazing soundtrack that has nothing to do with them. I mean, they're just great songs all into one movie. They need to do that more. What do you think?
Yeah, I love a good soundtrack. That sounds good.
Or what about a Guns N' Roses musical? Do they need to do that?
Yeah.
Inspired, a movie
I don't know if that
inspired
would
by
work,
the
like
music of Guns N' Roses, like what they did with
like a
Across
rock
the Universe
opera.
with the Beatles.
Yeah. Yeah, like We Will Rock You kind of thing.
That's it. Yes.
But you could do something like, wasn't there one similar? Oh, you mean something like Detroit Rock City, but kids?
You could do that too. Definitely. Yeah. That would be good.
But do you mean that wouldn't be a bad idea? I think. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
I'm glad you brought up that
sure.
movie. That's a good music movie.
Yeah,
Detroit
that
Rock
is
City.
that's actually
great
a good
movie.
idea.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah.
It's good fun. But there's some
while we're
things
on it, do you ever think there will be because they're coming out with them Fast and Furious, a Guns N' Roses biopic or an Axl Rose biopic? Would that ever be something we would see at some point? Because they're doing it for a lot of 80s bands now.
Yeah, they're doing it. Well,
Motley Crue got one. Yeah.
Yes. Did you watch that?
Yes.
The Dirt. Yeah. What
It's
did
based
you think?
off of that book.
Yes, the book's really good. The book is good actually, but the film was an experience. Yeah,
It was.
Yeah. The thing is with the Guns N' Roses one, I think I've heard about. I'm sure I read something though, and I'm sure I read someone was saying they wanted to do one or they were going to do one. I think it's something that obviously Axl will have the hand, the yes or no on, because he has the word on the band. But it would be interesting. But it'd be interesting because obviously you would have to be honest, and you wonder how what side of whose story
we don't want it to be a Bohemian Rhapsody.
No,
where they just
where they
completely
really
just
soft
neutered
sell
the movie.
everything.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
But something like something like Rocket Man.
Rocket Man's a lot better, yeah.
Rocket Man's fantastic.
Yeah. Rocket Man's really good. That's really good.
Talk about surreal. That was kind of a surreal musical experience in the theater for me, Rocket Man. Because the way in which they meshed the music and Elton John's life into one in these incredibly artistic sequences of just expression and emotion was really fantastic, the way to tell a story. And very open about all of the things that he dealt with in his life. And that's the thing with a lot of biopics is, like you said, how much can you show? What can't you show? I mean, I remember years ago, there was talk of a Frank Sinatra biopic done by Martin Scorsese. And apparently Frank Sinatra's family did not want it to happen because Scorsese wanted to tell certain truths that they probably didn't want out there. And that always seems to come up with things like that.
Yeah, I mean,
did you hear that the Queen one originally, when Sacha Baron Cohen was doing it, it was meant to be apparently David Fincher who would have directed it.
I do remember that.
I heard that and I just thought, oh no, we could have had that.
Yeah,
I know. Talk about hard-edged.
Yeah, can you imagine? I know it was bad enough that we weren't having the Sacha Baron Cohen Freddy, and then to say David Fincher was attached to it. Oh, I'm still not over that.
Yeah, I think based off of what I know about Axel, I feel like, with the way his attitude is, I would feel like he would want to be open. Don't you think? No?
I don't. It would depend on how he was depicted.
Yes.
Well, I mean, sure, but I mean, he's got to know he's.
I think it depends how the others were depicted as well, because he probably would have said, "Well, I wasn't the only jerk. It was them and them and them." And I think he probably would have wanted I think he probably would say, if you're going to make me look like that, then you've got to make him look like that, and you've got to make him look like that. And also, there've been so many lineups of Guns N' Roses. What era would you do? Would you do it the whole way through? Would you just do?
I don't know. You got to leave room for sequels. You got to leave room for sequels.
Well, that's true. The TV show.
Very true.
Because I think they're even talking about a sequel for Bohemian Rhapsody. I've heard that.
Oh God, no.
I know.
I did hear that, and I was like, that story's pretty definitive.
I mean, you already cut it up to death. Like the way the story's told, they like kind of like jump around. And move around timeline a little bit of things.
Well, they also like make up things.
Yeah, they make up stuff. Yeah,
yes.
I know there's artistic license and whatnot, but they stretch it to the extreme in many regards.
Yeah.
In many regards.
There's artistic license and there's just
straight up just
made up. Yeah, made up rubbish.
Yeah. Just to tell a more interesting story.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where if the story isn't interesting enough in and of itself and you have to make up stuff, maybe this isn't a story you don't necessarily need to tell.
Or at least tell in that form. They could have told it through a TV show. They could have had a lot more time with it on a limited series or something, But, I like movies, so but they could have just done it.
We'll watch anything.
Yeah, they could have just done it in a maybe more contained way instead of trying to fit in the whole history of the band in one movie as much as possible, And
I think they were too worried about maybe appealing to a hugely, getting the clean, popular film rather than showing things as they were. Because I mean, if everyone knew what was going on anyway, so it wasn't any secret. But I think they still kind of didn't want to maybe. I'm not saying not acknowledge certain things, but they probably thought there's been so many documentaries about what really happens. We'll do a nice, clean version.
A clean version of it, but still have like the results of what happened, but not show you how you got to the results.
Yeah.
So you're like skipping steps to get to a certain point.
It's like you can't really learn anything from that if you're just saying he got sick and why did he get sick? Why?
Yeah, how did he get sick? What was his? What were the reasons why?
Yeah,
and all those things. It's not surprising to me that rock stars and artists live very different lives than people understand, and they live very extreme lives. I'm looking even like 19th century authors and stuff like that who would be doing all kinds of drugs and hallucinogens, and that's how their writing was done.
Yeah.
And all those things. One of my favorites of all time, Jim Morrison, notoriously someone who did many, many drugs, and that was part of I guess what made him such an elusive enigma of an artist. And of course, we got the Doors movie, basically a Jim Morrison biopic by Oliver Stone with Val Kilmer and whatnot. I still think it's a great biopic of a musical biopic. I'm not quite sure how we got on musical biopics.
I took us there. It was me.
Yeah.
But
you did get us there.
We can relate this back to well, not necessarily
back
related.
to surrealism.
Well, there's one I forget which Madonna. There's a Madonna video, and it's basically she kind of replicates Leonore Feeney paintings in the video, and I forget which one it is now because my brain is a sieve. But there's a really beautiful video where she does that.
Okay.
So if you Google Madonna,
I see Andrew. He's looking. He's looking. I know it.
Yeah.
I love Leonore Feeney because she's cat obsessed, and she's one of my favourite painters.
Speaking of which, they are working on a
Lee
Madonna,
Miller.
but not a biopic.
And they're working on a Lee Miller biopic as well.
Oh, wow.
With Kate Winslet, who the estate is involved with. So I just hope it's done well, which I'm sure will be done well. But obviously, you were talking about, like Jim Morrison and hallucinogenic like writing and things, and with the surrealists, there were all sorts of like writing, automatic writing when you're kind of in like a tired state or not a lucid state, and that would often be, people would say, well, their poetry was done the best under those circumstances. So it's all related.
It can,
it's all, we can link everything back to it. I thought it was really,
it's very much and kind of what you're influenced on, not literal like substance or anything, but what you've read, what you study, all those things can impact your artwork as well. We see this in cinema all of the time.
Yeah.
We see, I brought up Martin Scorsese, he's taken so much from 1930s gangster films and stuff like that. Steven Spielberg took from like people like Michael Curtiz and The Adventures of Robin Hood, and that's how we got Indiana Jones. There's so much influence that all these artists take from the past, put it into them, into their own work, and then come up with their own stuff. And same can be, surrealism is so out there, but just kind of going back to surrealism, what are some of your favorite kind of surrealism in cinema? Your favorite filmmakers and perhaps people who've delved into things like that.
Obviously, I love Unshian Andalou. I think that's like that's probably one of the best ones and one of the best known films, and I just think it just condenses so much about the movement into one tiny, I think it's 15 minutes or something short, and that's always interesting, and that eyeball scene never gets old to see. I think Hitchcock's very surreal, and I know everyone talks about Spellbound because that was the Dali collaboration, and it for obvious reasons, because you got the eyes and you got psychoanalysis. But I also think Strangers on a Train is super surreal. I just think there's a lot of Freudian imagery there that goes, I'm not saying undetected, but isn't as picked up on as maybe it could be. And I think a lot of times when I think a film is surreal, it's something that's maybe less obvious, because I'm just picking out a few things and I think, well, hang on a sec, that is really surreal because it uses this, it uses that, and you start to spot a pattern after a bit. I don't know if that makes sense. So things like Strangers on a Train, you have like the eyes and the eyeglasses on the floor, and then you see a lot of for a lot of Freudian imagery, a lot of things like the tunnels and things like that, and double meanings in the art. I think obviously David Lynch. I think David Lynch makes these beautiful films that can be nightmares, and I think that's the fine line with surrealism, that some things can be beautiful and some things have a nightmarish energy about them. And so you have to go through one to encounter the other. And I think David Lynch does that really, really well. You know, when you go beneath the surface. Well, it's very Alice in the Looking Glass type of thing, when you go through the looking glass. C.S. Lewis, he was a fan of the surrealists. Obviously, they liked, you know, they were fans of his, I should say. But more also, I think something more recently, Under the Silver Lake. I think that was a beautifully surreal film. I thought it was fantastic, and there were things in that, and very Leonore Feeney-esque, like with the comic book that he picked up, and you know, the masked figure, and that masked figure was reminiscent of when Leonore Feeney dressed as Snowy Owl from the story of O in a series of photographs. So I think there was a lot of things in that film which were really, really beautifully surreal and kind of relate back to her. What else? Yeah, there's quite a lot out there.
There's a ton we could connect to. When you were talking about Hitchcock, I was thinking of also like Rebecca, kind of has a lot of surrealistic elements.
Marnie as well.
Yeah.
Talk about gothic surrealism.
Yes.
Surrealism is such a gateway in cinema, I think, for so much. It was for me personally. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people. Like you mentioned, Un Chien Andalou with Louis Buñuel's work. I mean, I just had a friend just watched Belle de Jour for the first time. And every time I see someone watch that movie, I'm just like, I'm curious what they're going to think about it. Talk about surreal. And coded messages. And it's one of the most sexual films without actually ever showing any sex in it whatsoever. Yeah. And that's such a surreal type of way that you can get a message across in a film. And of course, Viridiana, which is another great film from him. Of course, David Lynch, we've talked here so many times. We did a whole episode on Eraserhead once upon a time, and that movie's just incredibly interesting. The rumor, speaking of which, the rumor of the week is that apparently David Lynch may have been working on a secret film project. Ooh. And he just hasn't told anyone, and I guess that's the thing. And I'm like, I hope so.
Yeah.
I would love if he would just said, yeah, here's my new film that no one knew about.
That would be what he would do. I mean, that's of course that he did some stuff for Netflix, so he got some money.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. And every single day he's on his YouTube channel with the number of the day and giving us a weather report and all that stuff. Yeah. Just doing what he does. Just a treasure. A treasure.
But Sabina, it's been a great conversation about just an array of things. We went all over the place. We started talking about kind of a more academic surrealism type of area, and then we went over to your love of where your film started, and then we went over to music, and then we went back around to music and film, and back to surrealism again. So we appreciate you coming on and talking all that stuff with us. Thank you.
Well, I'm the least academic person, so that's why I think it was appropriate to go all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, but that's, when you have, a deep interest in something that at least for me, Andrew's probably a little bit more into that than I am, into surrealism than I am, but just because you're not like super academic, like you can find a way to easily talk to me about it without me being like, huh?
That's so important. And I think especially because I wasn't, I've never been hugely academic myself, and I just think it's nice to, have conversations that you're not scaring people because you don't want that.
Well, the thing is some people are just scared to learn. I don't know what it is. There's a problem in today's world where people only want to hear what they only want to take in what everybody else is taking in and not try to like explore other things. And they're afraid to like not understand it or not like, I don't know what it is.
But you gotta make it fun though. You do. You get it across in a fun way.
Yeah. And I think you did that. You did that for me today.
Thank you. Well, that's nice to hear. Thank you so much.
So Andrew, anything else before we head out?
No. I think we've covered a good array, a good diverse conversation about everything. Then we came back and kind of tied a bow on it at the end, getting back to the original.
Awesome.
So great time.
Well, thank you, Sabina, and we hope you have a. I hope you have a good. I know you're going off to TCM, right? Ain't you going to that right after this sometime?
I'm going, in a week, and just first time flying since the
pandemic
since
stuff,
the pandemic. This all hit. So scrabbling all my what's needed together, and hopefully we'll be well. Yeah.
And people can follow your journey at TCM. I think you have a blog.
I have I was curious whether to keep that updated, but I'm really bad at things like that. But you can just find me online at Sabina Stent, and just all the links and things are there.
You got a link tree. You got a link tree on your.
I've got a link tree. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've got some things, about 2 or 3 things coming up. Talk things soon that should be announced shortly. So that'll be in the next few months. So if anyone's interested, I'll be tweeting them out.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Sabina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that was Sabina Stent, Dr. Sabina Stent, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah, she was fantastic. A lot of stuff.
Fantastic interview.
Yeah, I was, the beginning there, I was a little out of my league, I have to say. She was talking about a lot of stuff I did not know anything about. But I definitely, I usually listen back to these episodes, so I'll definitely be listening back and really kind of combing through some of what she said when it came to certain artists and things like that. But very smart, very, just
very nice,
very nice,
easy
and very
to talk to.
over so many interests.
Yes, very diverse, very well-rounded, educated person, wonderful to talk to, loves movies, basically just in line with everyone else we've talked to here on the show.
Basically, yeah.
Just a wonderful time.
Definitely.
And moving from there, we're going to get into the main bulk of our show, going over a couple of releases from this week. Not a big week,
not
super
a little
quiet,
yeah.
little small. A lot of these didn't drop until later in the week, usually Friday, which not good for us.
Yeah.
But it is what it is, which is not the best saying in the world. But moving right into it, there's one kind of major, somewhat major release from Studio Canal I wanted to dive into called Cat's Eye, which is, of course, the Stephen King adaptation. This is getting a UHD 4K release, which is very fascinating to me because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Stephen, have you seen this movie? I don't think
no,
either of us have seen it.
If I've seen it, I don't remember it. I know Drew Barrymore is in it, James Woods.
Yes.
And it I've heard, is it connected to Cat People? Is it like a remake or something?
I don't think so.
Maybe I'm thinking of, I know there's remakes of Cat People.
We're going to talk about one of them, very, very quick, very, very soon. But I just thought this was interesting because of all the Stephen King adaptations that are kind of getting not a reprisal, but they're all coming back to light now in the last few years, of course, with It Chapter 1 and 2. They redid Pet Sematary. They've been doing all kind of television series based off of his work now. We did a whole episode on Cinema Discovery Project of his adaptations.
We did that.
But Cat's Eye is getting a release, and I'm glad I never bought the Blu-ray because now I can get this. I would like to see Salem's Lot get a 4K release at some point. I don't know if it's coming. But
if anybody's going to do it, it's probably going to be Shout Factory or Scream Factory.
Yes,
because they've I think put out the Blu-rays.
Like a thing.
Yeah,
that seems like it's going to happen. But I just thought that was very interesting. Of course, this is a 4K, so it's region free.
Well, except for whatever special features, I'm assuming are going to be on a Blu-ray, and that'll be probably a region B because it is Studio Canal.
Yes, so if you have a region A, if you have a region free player, you should be all set. If you don't, you can still watch the movie, which I assume is going to be in much better quality than currently exists on the Blu-ray that has been around for many, many years. But moving from there, Stephen...
Well, I was going to say one thing.
Where do you want to go?
One interesting thing I'm reading about this is that, first of all, this is one of the Stephen King films that actually was written by Stephen King, the screenplay. So he didn't do that as did he do that with Maximum Overdrive?
Maximum Overdrive? That's a good question. I know he directed that movie.
What's that?
He directed it.
Oh, that's right. I knew he was involved actually in the filmmaking process, because a lot of the ones that are adaptations he's not involved in them. But there was a few there where he actually got involved in the either the writing or the directing.
He did write the screenplay for Maximum Overdrive and did direct the film. I think this is kind of his only directing credit. Yeah. If memory serves. It's been a few years since I saw it, since we did that episode way back when. Yeah. And a lot of that's definitely a cult film. Yeah. Definitely a cult film. Not one of my personal favorites.
No, not. I like Estevez, but not that much.
Oh yeah, Emilio.
Yeah, and also the director of Cat's Eye is Louis Teague, and he's done a lot of. He's done a few other, I think, Stephen King. He did Cujo. He also did Alligator, which is recently got Shout Factory releases on 4K. So
that movie is really, really entertaining and a lot better than the premise would suggest. And a lot of that is to do because of Robert Forster. Yeah. And that's the reason why that movie is as good as it is. But we are going to talk about Shout Factory. I guess that's as good a transition as one can make. Yeah. They are doing a couple of re-releases of their stuff. First up being Cat People, which is it's a 4K UHD upgrade from their special edition Blu-ray, which came out a few years ago, which I heard not a lot of people were happy with the transfer for that. Hopefully this one is much better.
Now, this is the 82 version, right?
Yeah, this is the one by Paul Schrader, starring Malcolm McDowell, John Hurd, Natasha Kinski is on the cover here. Yeah. And Annette O'Toole is in the film as well. This is an interesting remake, if you will. I did watch it for the first time ever in preparation for this. It's interesting.
How does it compare to the original?
The original is better if we're comparing. It is the Jacques Tourneur film. Horror noir classic. It's of course you could get away with a lot more and be more overt in the 1980s one. I think that's kind of one of its issues. Is you don't really hide things. You kind of just. They're more out in the open in terms of the themes and all that stuff, and whatnot. The original is has a moody feeling. It's black and white. It's mysterious, whereas the 80s one not so much. Yeah. And you're able to do a lot more supernatural stuff with the 80s one versus the original, where you're questioning the whole supernatural aspect of it all. And I know a lot of people really like this version of it. Some people don't. It's not one of, I would say, Paul Schrader's best films. I think he did better work in terms of comparing it to his whole career. But it's definitely an interesting watch. So those of you who are fans of it and were not happy with that original release, this is probably going to be something you're going to want to pick up. I'm assuming we're going to get the same special features that Shout Factory had from before. Probably. There's no real question about that. It is a UHD and Blu-ray combo pack, so I'm assuming the special features will be on the Blu-ray as well as probably the feature film. I like the cover art, though. Yeah. I really dig the cover art. Also, there's some great kind of special effects when it comes to the transformation into... not bearing the lead here, a cat person. Yeah. A cat person... Yeah, you'll see. I don't want to say anything about the movie. It's more literal than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, okay. I know it's a bit of a cult film for some. What's the next film, Steven?
How about we throw Fargo? Fargo is a 4K that I'm seeing that just got announced.
Oh, that's a little bit of a film.
And it's somebody did that. Who directed that? Maybe a couple brothers.
These new people arriving on the scene. The Coen brothers.
Oh,
Coen brothers.
Okay.
Is that how you pronounce that?
I just say Coen.
Yeah, I know. That was the joke.
I know.
That was
the
joke.
I know.
Of course, this is the classic. Well, I don't know if classic's what
I would say it's classic by now.
Yeah,
it's over 20 years old, right?
It's what, about
almost
26 years old? Yeah, 26 years old as of this year.
Yeah.
Came out in 1996. This is Fargo, the Coen brothers film that is probably one of their most well-known films, starring Frances McDormand, William H. Macy, Steve Buscemi's in the film, Peter Stormare. It's a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
This is probably one of my favorite. This may be my favorite Coen Brother movie.
Really?
That or The Big Lebowski.
Wow.
I don't know. I love Lebowski.
I have a hard time.
Fargo's such a good film.
There's so many. They have a kind of a diverseness to them. And so I mean, a lot of people. I think a lot of people that got to Coen Brothers a little later. A lot of people say No Country for Old Men. They really like that. But
and that movie
personally,
is so different.
Yeah,
so different from the rest of their other work.
Yeah, because I personally I get drawn to Inside Llewyn Davis. Because I'm, being into music and just seeing that journey of a folk artist, trying to make it and just fighting against what's popular and what's like I think
of that movie
hit
a
home
lot.
with me.
Yeah, I think of that movie a lot because one, Oscar Isaac I think is stunning in that film, and it's a mixture of the solemnness and of the Coen Brothers and the existentialism of them. It's a more serious film. Yeah. Like I said, it's on that No Country for Old Men type of vibe. Whereas a lot of the people, like you said, who had come to the Coen Brothers early on, came more for their kind of quirky
movies.
Their
Raising Arizona,
irreverent comedies. Yeah. Raising Arizona,
Big
Big
Lebowski. Even Fargo's funny. Even Fargo's got a lot of comedy.
Fargo's has dark humor in it. Yeah, they have that dark humor in them. But their later stuff and more recent stuff is a little bit darker.
I mean, they had Hail Caesar is kind of a go back.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah,
they would go back to their more comedic vibes with Hail Caesar, to some mixed results for some, but Fargo is one of their best films.
Where's our Buster Scruggs Blu-ray?
I know
it needs to come out.
How am I going to have a complete Coen Brothers section in my collection wut a Buster Scruggs?
It's got to be
Blu-ray?
a Criterion at some point.
It's been a few years since that movie's come out. I hope. But this is getting, like I said, it's a collector's edition, 4K Ultra HD. Plus a Blu-ray in there as well. This movie has had an interesting kind of history when it comes to Blu-ray releases here in the U.S. We've got it on Blu-ray in 2009. Remember that box set they came out with like Fargo and Miller's Crossing, Raising Arizona. All that stuff came out around the 2009 through 2012 area, I guess. But they came out back in 2009. They re-released it in a remastered version in 2014. I have that release as well. And now, of course, that release is a little bit irrelevant because this is, yet again, higher quality release. Yeah. So the third release, technically.
Yeah.
And so people must have a lot. And they've also, re-released it in,
steelbooks.
Steelbook editions and stuff. But this is interesting to me that Shout Factory is releasing because they didn't release either of the other ones.
Okay.
I think those were released straight up by 20th Century Fox, if I believe.
Well, we know what happened to them.
Course, well, yeah, they went away.
They went to they're Disney.
Yeah, well, actually, it was Metro. Okay, so the first one was Metro Goldwyn Mayer, which is MGM, and then let me see where the second release was from. Because we may have just jumped the gun there a little bit. The second one was also MGM, but similar to Fox, is now part of a bigger company, also known as Amazon. Yeah. So there you go. There you go.
But
like I said a few weeks ago, if you want to get some MGM titles on Blu-ray, grab them up.
All right. Well, another one here we got is a one that actually had a not too long ago release from another label, Imprint. We have Fire in the Sky, getting a Shout Factory release.
Yes.
Or a Scream Factory, their sub-label.
Now, Steven, did you end up getting that release from Imprint? Because I know it sold fast.
Yeah, I got that one. I got the limited edition with the slipcover. The film's about true story of a man who claimed to be abducted by aliens back in 1975. It's fascinating. I really liked it. It's one of my favorite alien abduction movies.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean there's a weird vibe about the movie. I mean, and then when it gets to the actual him going through getting abducted, it's just kind of odd, the visualization of the whole experience for him. And I just find it to be one of the most. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's definitely one that I like to watch because of the kind of the angle they go into it with. You know, it's not. They try to make it feel as close to real life as I think as possible,
right?
Based off of his experiences. But yeah, I mean, it's you know, this will just be your Region A version. I feel. I don't, as usual with Shout Factory, we don't know about features, but the in-print release is great. And either way, you know, I think just a standard edition from imprints out there now. So, but yeah, we'd have to see about features later. So
yeah, and in terms of release dates, Fargo only says summer of 2022, which is any
could be
any variety of months. Could be June, could be July, could be August. But Fire in the Sky is definitively coming out, well, as of right now, June 21st, 2022, which is about 2 months from now. So that is Fire in the Sky. Steven, what's next on the
Let's talk about one I saw pop up for one of our previous guests who's doing features. Justin Beam did some features on this film, The Funhouse.
Oh yes, the Tobe Hooper film.
Yes,
Tobe Hooper.
And so I saw him post about this because his company, Reverend Entertainment, did some features on here. So yeah, I believe I think this was announced, or maybe somebody else put this out. I feel like I went and watched this film for the show once.
I was going to ask you, have you seen the movie?
I think I have, but it's not clear to me. I'm not sure.
Look. Well, it's a movie this is also an upgrade from a special edition that they did, a collector's edition they did in 2012. This was right when Scream Factory was just starting out, was around that time.
Yeah.
And this was one of their earliest releases. So that must be where that's from, but I don't know why you would have watched it.
Well, maybe Justin Beam had brought it up in his episode, and I, for some reason... I don't know. I just feel like
that could have been it.
I feel like this was brought up at some point in the past during this show, and I decided to watch it, and I just can't remember when. It just the Funhouse just seems familiar to me. I don't know why.
Well, I could definitely tell you that it's also coming out June 21st, 2022, and this is, like I said, an upgrade from their collector's edition. So you can assume it's gonna get all of those special features, hopefully. And there's no details on any of these when it comes to the quality, if they're new 4K remasters, if they're new 4K scans, if they're restorations or anything like that. Hopefully that information comes out sooner rather than later. I would hope they would be. I mean, we're talking re-releases of editions that came out a decade ago.
Yeah. They
could use it.
Yeah, definitely. But another one we got here, and this one is interesting because we know that this film has been getting worked on by Second Sight for a while now.
Oh, yes.
And that is the Dog Soldiers 4K.
I do know what you're talking about.
And so that's what's interesting here, because what it's saying here is that the label has confirmed that its upcoming release will be sourced from a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative approved by the director, Neil Marshall, and cinematographer Sam McCurdy. So is this the same restoration that Second Sight is doing?
That is, I believe, true.
Yeah, that's what it makes sense to me, because, I mean, how are they doing two different 4K restorations of the original camera negative?
I believe they're probably just going to license, basically buy the transfer rights from, not buy or rent, lease, I don't know how it works, from Second Sight, and then use that for their release.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're doing.
That's what makes sense to me.
I'm pretty sure that's what I read somewhere. That was my first question. My first question was is the Second Sight's been doing this for at least a year that we've known of? I think February of 2021 was when we first heard news of Dog Soldiers getting a 4K release. Yeah. And then they, of course, I believe the idea was that the original camera negative was lost or something like that, but they were able to find something close to it. I don't remember. No, actually, they were able to find the original camera negative. So because it's a 4K restoration from the original camera negative. The thing is, the previous releases on Blu-ray that we've been getting from whomever, I know Shout Factory put out a Scream Factory version of this a few years ago, that transfer is not from the original camera negative. Yeah. This, I think, is the first time that's going to happen. And that was my question. My also question is, what is the special features difference going to be?
Yeah.
We don't know second sights yet.
Well, we don't know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get an announcement on that soon, being that this has come out from Shout. So I feel like they're going to want to answer and be like, hey, don't forget that we're still putting it out.
Yeah, because they've been working on that for a long time. And that Dog Soldiers release from Second Sight is supposed to come out June 15th.
Oh, so that's already got a date on
now, like 2 months.
Oh, and this is supposed to come out June 14th. So
yeah, competing. Yeah, competition.
But it's look, I don't know yet, but I have a feeling that the Second Sight one's going to be a lot more deluxe than this one.
Do you think so?
I feel like
this one's not no.
Well, I mean, look. First of all, the packaging is probably going to be more deluxe. We know Second Sight. Almost everything they put out is deluxe. So I think that's pretty guaranteed. Feature-wise, they tend to do pretty good amounts of new features usually.
Yeah, and I'm assuming this is going to be a relative repackage of the Shout Factory special features list from the previous edition, because there's, from what I'm reading here on their website, there's nothing new and other than the transfer, which I guess is the most important part.
Sure.
But, you do get an audio commentary from the director. You get a couple of other special features looking at, like, special effects and stuff like that, and looking at the making of Dog Soldiers. But other than that, you get a short film from Neil Marshall himself.
Yeah. I mean,
but I don't know. I don't know what Second Sight has.
Yeah, I mean, if Second Sight's doing the restoration and Neil Marshall's working with them, I'm assuming any kind of new features are probably going to be done with them. That's just if I'm doing my Sherlock Holmes here, that's what I'm thinking is we're going to get an overall maybe better edition possibly from Second Sight. It doesn't mean that this edition's going to be bad.
Oh no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not disregarding either of these editions. I'm just Second Sight is more intriguing to me, just because I'm more interested in what they have to deliver than because I know obviously I know what Shout Factory is. Their cards are out on the table. We know what they have here.
Look, we like all these labels, but we have our ones that we go to a little bit more than others. And if I'm going to choose between these two, I typically am going to put my cards more on Second Sight because they seem to a little bit more effort there. Personally, so
what do you think of the cover art for this Dog Soldiers?
I like the cover art.
Do you like it? Yeah. There was someone in the comments who was not a big fan of it on Facebook.
I don't mind it. I mean, look,
and I guess everybody's got their own opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody's got assholes too.
Yeah. Oh, there is a second. Yeah. The Second Sight artwork though looks pretty nice.
Okay, wait. I have not seen this. What are you talking about?
If you go to their Instagram.
I have not seen anything
Second
about
Sight Films official.
Unless I just hit my
mic.
Ooh,
that's pretty good looking right there. But yeah, some people were not happy with this.
Okay, so at their the Second Sight Instagram, they have artwork. I must have forgot.
It's Second Sight Films official is their Instagram page, and they have artwork. Yeah,
I think I forgot about this because I'm completely I didn't know that they had really released artwork. I must have forgot. You know what? I remember this now. Yeah.
Okay.
That artwork is amazing.
Yeah, that artwork is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
If you just go by aesthetics,
if this is
you'll
the
be
final
happy
artwork,
with that one versus this one.
Pretty amazing.
I would say. Yes.
And I've seen the movie, and the movie's fun.
The movie's good.
It's really fun. Yeah.
I really like it. It's super low budget, and werewolf films. There's not much people have been able to do with them outside of kind of telling a certain story, but this is really good.
It makes you think about like Alien. Like it's like almost kind of like an Alien scenario.
Feels almost like Predator.
Or Predator, definitely.
I mean, because it's a group of soldiers in like the woods, not knowing what they're getting themselves into,
yep.
And just the way in which they're kind of being harassed by this entity.
Yeah.
What is it? Where is it coming from? It gives you that sense of suspense, sense of dread. A really good werewolf film. But moving on from there.
Lastly, let's talk about something that confused the hell out of me because I thought this was a standard edition reissue, but no, it's it's a whole new group of films from Werner Herzog, the collection Volume 2, and like I said, I thought this was just like a reissue, like they were like breaking it up into 2 volumes of the original Shout Factory Herzog set. But no, this is a whole other new volume with new group of films on 5 discs. And so I'm unprepared for this. But you've watched a lot of these.
Yes, I've seen 6 out of the 11 films.
Okay.
11 seems such an odd number to put in a box set, but whatever. I like my things in even numbers, you know. I don't know if that's an OCD thing.
Is.
Probably is. But yes, like you said, this is 11 films on 5 discs. This is the Herzog, the Collection Volume 2. Now, for those of you listening at home, probably own this. There was a Herzog, the Collection, I guess Volume 1 now you want to call it. Yeah. It didn't really have a Volume 1 moniker to it. That came out in 2014 in this large deluxe book-type packaging. Steven has it. A lot of people bought it. You could buy a special collector's edition, super duper deluxe from there. That was a Shout Factory exclusive and whatnot. But that was 2014. Now flash forward to now. It is 2022, so 8 years later, and we have Volume 2. And these are films that came out in the same timeline as those movies, but they were just not included. So it gives you a more putting those 2 sets together gives you a more comprehensive, collection of Werner Herzog's work. The issue here, and I think a lot of people are going to notice this, the packaging for this set, Volume 2, is massively different. From what I see, it looks like just a larger, regular Blu-ray standard case with a slip cover over it, and it's the same image from the first film, from the first box set, except they made Werner Herzog blue. That's for some reason. Yeah. Well, there is a movie called Wild Blue Yonder in the set, but I don't know. I don't know what the deal, not the deal, but what the mindset was. Are we just not going to make it as similar for the first set because of cost issues and because these are lesser films? The first set had Aguirre, Wrath of God, Fitzcarraldo, Nosferatu. It had the more well-known works. A lot of these films are probably films that a lot of people aren't aware of. Coincidentally, I think mostly all of these movies, except for 1 or 2, you can stream on like Tubi and places like that. They're easily available to watch. I don't know if that was the case. Either way, I know a lot of people are probably not happy with this release.
Well,
and Steven didn't even realize what it was.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that it was more of his films, which I'm glad, and I'm glad to this is something I probably will invest in. One other interesting thing that I noticed, and you brought it up to me that maybe that it wasn't even created yet, but the Shout Select line is also attached to this release, which was not on the first release. So I think Shout Select maybe wasn't even created yet when they put out the first collection. But this new collection, Volume 2, is got Shout Select on it, which makes sense because Shout Select is supposed to be their more, what do you want to call it, the artsy line, but they've also put, Little Big League on there, so I don't know how Little Big League and Werner Herzog films coincide, but yeah, like I've said, I haven't seen any of these films, but I am into, completing collections, and this is 11 more of Werner Herzog's films, some of them being documentaries, some of them being feature lengths. And
yeah, I can give you a little bit of insight into them,
okay,
and whatnot.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Don't go too crazy.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I can also tell you that Shout Select didn't start until 2016.
There you go. So
we're talking
couple years
way back.
Years
and like
after.
I said, Scream Factory didn't start until 2012. So that's where you get like Funhouse and Cat People or early releases from them. But like Steven was saying, some of these are documentaries, documentary shorts, and documentary features, and that's kind of what Werner Herzog is relatively known for a lot of his work. Some of these range in runtimes of like 46 minutes to an hour and a half. So you get that kind of expanded time frame, and I guess that's why you can fit so many movies on so little discs. even they're short. But what I find fascinating about these films from Werner Herzog is the subject matter is so vast. He gets into all kinds of things. It's just incredible array of stuff. Like I said, there's one film called La Soufrière, which is about a town that's been completely evacuated because a volcano is about to erupt, but one person won't leave, and it's literally just shots of like the town completely abandoned for like a while, and you just see like empty streets and empty stores and all this stuff, and you get a Werner Herzog narration about like what that all means about life and stuff. Talk about surrealism we were talking about earlier. You got Werner Herzog here, I mean, just expounding upon life.
What's weird about that? What's weird about that whole film scenario is like, how did he hear about this? Like, somebody's like, hey, this guy won't leave with this volcano coming. Like,
yeah, apparently he heard about it randomly, and he's like, oh, I got to get down there and record some stuff.
That's crazy.
It's only it's 31 minutes long.
And then that shows you what kind of artist he is. He's willing to, like, on the spot decide, this is worth making a film about. Like, I need to go run down there and film this guy and put my life at risk with a volcano going to erupt, you know?
And then he does, like, The Great Ecstasy of Woodcarver Steiner is about a guy who is like a champion ski jumper, but he's also a carpenter, and it's just about him like doing this this race to, I don't know if it's to qualify for the Olympics or to win a championship or something like that. Not a race, but like, you know, a ski jump, a competition.
Yeah.
And it's just all about that. And then you know, you get The Wheel of Time, which I believe is the film that's an hour and a half, and it's about the Buddha, like a Buddhist religious ceremony with the Dalai Lama presiding, and he interviews the Dalai Lama, and it's just incredibly interesting.
Werner Herzog,
and it's an hour and a half of just people doing this religious stuff. It's just
Herzog,
so
obviously through his work is just showing you how much he's interested in people. Like he just wants to see everybody's perspective and see every different and why they do the things they do and the good sides and the bad things and he really is interested in humans. And
and he's done so much, and he's done feature works too. I don't want you to think that, for those of you who haven't gotten into Werner Herzog's work, he's done feature films.
Normal narratives.
I mean, he's done acting.
Yeah.
I mean,
he was in Jack Reacher.
He's the bad guy in Jack Reacher. He was an R-rated villain in a PG-13 action movie. Yeah. That's exactly what he was. But of course, he was in The Mandalorian. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure he's never seen Star Wars before. He doesn't care about Star Wars. He was just in it.
Yeah. What's the movie? Was it the Invisible or Invincible? The one that came out from Indicator, that was his film with Tim Roth?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that is him. I'm pretty sure that was that. Yeah, he did the documentary Into the Abyss, which was about like a death row inmate. He did Grizzly Man.
Yeah, Grizzly Man.
Remember that guy who? I mean, people know Grizzly Man because it was living with bears, and he ended up getting killed by one. I mean, pretty gruesome stuff. Pretty unfortunate. It was Invincible was the movie. It came out in 2001 that we covered, which I think may be out of print now.
Really?
Yeah, the limited
edition. Really?
Maybe, or it's low in stock. But yeah, he's done so much work, and his career has spanned all the way from the 1960s all the way up through now. A unique filmmaker, unique individual. I'm a little disappointed with the lack of robustness of this set, but I think the quality of the movies are worth it.
Yeah.
And if you're a completist and you have that first set, you're probably still going to want to get this one, because I don't see them putting out a deluxe version the way they put out the deluxe version for the first one. I think it's probably a cost thing. It's probably
I guess I'm just going to have to make my own box set of it. This is a thing I've been wanting to do. I've been thinking about it. Like some of these packages that are really disappointing me, I'm just going to make my own. I know Andrew's looking at me like, good luck.
Good luck. I mean, go have at it. That seems like a lot of work.
I'm going to prove you right. You're like, he ain't going to do it. Oh, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to build a damn set that looks just like this Werner Herzog set I already have, and just one with him being blue. And then
nice.
And then
it is the same. Yeah, it is the same exact image.
It's the same image.
It's just his head.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even turn it the other way.
They could have given us the other side of his face or something.
Yeah, I was thinking of that Goodfellas one where they go to dinner and it's Martin Scorsese's mom, who's the Joe Pesci's mom's character in the movie, and she's like she has a painting with these two dogs looking two different ways, and Robert De Niro goes, "Oh, one dog going this way, one dog looking that way." It's just hilarious.
All right, well,
always comes back to Scorsese.
It does.
But moving on.
It does.
Moving on.
All right, well. Now let's get on to our last slate here, and it's from...
we have two slates, technically.
What else?
We have Umbrella, and we have 88 films.
Okay, let's do 88 films real quick, because I'm not...
Oh, okay, yeah, because there's not a lot.
Yeah.
There's not a lot for 88 films. I've got to actually look up... I know we're getting a 4K UHD release of Dragons Forever,
yeah.
which... is the Jackie Chan film from 1988, I believe. And that film, I think, has gotten a few edition releases already.
Well, yeah, they already... I got the Blu-ray already. That didn't come out that long ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds so familiar.
Yeah, it came out either last year or the year before. It's pretty recent. So this is another scenario where they're dipping back in really fast, like, and doing these 4Ks.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think what the thing is, so Dragons Forever came out, it came out in 2020 and 2021. 2021, they had a Steelbook re-release. That's what it was. But what this is, of course, it's a 4K upgrade, but it's also getting released here in the U.S. Those were the UK editions.
Yeah.
That is the main difference. And, of course, the transfer is going to be better with the 4K UHD upgrade, all that kind of stuff. And it's also kind of a cool deluxe packaging
it looks
as well
great.
that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Looks like a top, like one of those ones that come off the top and whatnot.
Yeah.
What are they, those cigarette
top.
What do they call them?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So that's getting a re-release. That's getting a re-release. So if you're a Jackie Chan completist, like I think Steven,
as much as I would like to get it, I've already bought it, so I could have.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the same on disc content.
It's going to be a little crisper picture, but you know what? I'm happy with my Blu-ray. So
right. But moving on to another film here that we've also heard about so much, Stone.
Yeah.
With this Ozploitation film from 1974. This has been put out by
Severin,
88 Films, and Umbrella.
Yeah.
It was part of their Ozploitation collection, the little sub-label they got going on down there. So this movie's gotten 3 releases, all within like the last year or two or so. Just wild. And this is getting, it's a 4K scan from the original and restoration from the archive film materials. This is an Ozploitation film. It's an interesting movie. Basically what's happening in this film, for those of you who have seen it or haven't seen it, is this biker gang is like, these members are starting to get like picked off and killed, and they're trying to figure out who it is. So this cop decides to like become part of their gang and to try to investigate and see what's going on. Ends up being a whole political thing thrown into it as well. But it's a gritty film. I really dug it. So you can get that release, this release, or the Severin one, which I think is just about to come out, and that's a super collector's edition.
Yeah, that's a reissue. Yeah, they reissued their version. But what else do we got? Drive in 4K.
Yes, and it's not the Drive.
No, it's not the Drive that with the handsome guy Ryan Gosling in it.
Ryan Gosling. This is Drive from 1997, a straight-to-video movie. And I'll tell you this, Steven, out of all of these movies, this is the one I kind of want the most.
Really?
I haven't
watched it yet, yeah.
For a movie that was a straight-to-video movie from like 1997, it is wildly entertaining.
Okay. You got me excited now.
Yeah.
It looks like a Fast and the Furious ripoff from the cover.
It's not so much. So basically,
though that's already a ripoff itself. So
yeah, that's already a ripoff in and of itself. So what happens is in the film without giving anything away, is that there's this guy who's got like these. I don't know. He's like a cyborg or whatnot. He's got these animatronic parts in him. Basically, these bad guys want to get him before he can sell some type of special technological stuff that's in him to like the highest bidder for like $5 million. So they're trying to chase him down. And some poor guy gets kind of roped into what he's doing by happenstance, and they end up going on this road trip of these guys chasing him. They're getting into fights and all this kind of stuff. It's wildly entertaining. Halfway into the film, Brittany Murphy shows up as like the owner or operator or this who works at this motel, and she's like wildly unhinged and just like hilariously crazy, and she's great in it, and she makes the film better. The action in it's cool and whatnot. I mean, the dialogue's not great. The plot is what it is. There's cheesiness in it. It's a relative B movie, but damn if it's not entertaining. I was really surprised. Great martial arts work in the movie as well.
I'm getting it. I have to get it.
It's cool. It's really cool. I know MVD is also put this movie out on Blu-ray a year ago, in last May. So there is an MVD Rewind collector's edition of this from MVD Visual if you want to get that instead of getting the 4K from 88 Films. This is region free, but the Blu-ray will be region B locked, I'm pretty sure.
Sure.
But yeah, it's coming out in June, so I'm very interested in that.
Yes.
I think that may be it for 88 Films.
Yeah. I think.
Yet again, it was quiet this week, and also a lot of this stuff really didn't get any big fanfare when it came to releases. Yeah. When it came to like social media drops and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I don't
we had to run
why.
down some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm just frantically looking at stuff right now. Yeah. But now we'll get into kind of a more larger slate and more easily accessible slate, and this is Umbrella Entertainment, back in Australia, going from one to the other. So we've got a list of films here, and I'll just go through them right now, and then we'll talk about them. Bergman Island, which is a film that came out last year, which I did see. Really good film, kind of a love letter to Bergman, very interesting story structure. The Devil's Candy, from a horror film from 2015. A lot of people have been waiting for this to come out on Blu-ray, and it hasn't since, and it has for the first time. That's what I wanted to say. Love Serenade, part of their Sunburnt Screens little sub-label they got going on, starring Miranda Otto. For Lord of the Rings fans, you know who Miranda Otto is. She was Éowyn in The Two Towers and Return of the King. And you got some Ozploitation here with Thirst and The Survivor. This is Ozploitation number 14 and Ozploitation number 15. And then we got, of course, they've been releasing these all along now, the Bruce Lee films. We have Game of Death, Films of Fury number 4, and then Francis Ha, the film which Criterion put out several years ago, the Noah Baumbach film. We've got an all-star comedy capers double feature volume 5 with The Money Pit and The Burbs. And now, Stephen, I was wondering whether The Burbs was a comedy. I guess it is.
It is. Yeah.
There's a little horror element in there,
I
guess.
Bit, but I'd say horror comedy. Yeah.
And then next you have another double feature of Rumblefish and Gardens of Stone, which is Icons of the Silver Screen Volume 4. And
interesting.
These is a double feature of Coppola films.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Indicator put out The Garden Stone, and
Criterion put out
Rumblefish. So, yeah.
I love Rumblefish.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
Yeah, them are big gets to put into one package. But
very much so.
Yeah, it's.
And then last, we do have one more here.
Okay.
We have, it says Camino de Santiago Volume 1, which has the movie The Way, and I think a documentary called The Unlikely Pilgrims. Now, The Way is a film from 2010 directed by Emilio Estevez, starring his father, Martin Sheen. And I remember when this movie came out, people were talking about it, and I couldn't ever find it to watch it. And obviously I forgot about it until now. But yeah, Emilio Estevez doing a little bit of directing in there. So that is the entire Umbrella slate. Stephen, does anything
Well, I did check
interest you?
I did check out The Survivor.
I did as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of an odd film. It's kind of, I didn't love it. It was a little on the slow side. The beginning starts off like crazy, like a damn airplane crash that is actually very, very good. I actually thought it was very scary.
Yeah. As they are, as they tend to
but
be.
sometimes they don't visualize them great, and the way they visualize this one, you kind of got like the on the ground perspective too, like not even
chaos,
not even just the people in the plane, but the people that were like on the ground that like got killed. It's
And for those of you listening, the premise of that film is that there is a plane crash, like Steven just said at the very beginning of the film, and there is one survivor.
So it's unbreakable.
And he is listening to. No, he's hearing like voices in his head and seeing visions, and he's kind of losing his mind a bit. And you're trying to figure out why is that happening, and there may be a bit of a supernatural reason why. But like Steven said, it is a little slow there in the middle. But that third act is a little wild.
Yeah.
Also. Did you notice who was in the movie at one point for one scene? In a church?
I missed it. Then
as a priest?
You have to say it because I don't remember.
Joseph Cotton.
Oh, shoot. I didn't know that was him.
That was Joseph. He's in one scene in this movie as a priest, and this is his last movie he was ever in, was The Survivor.
Man.
That's his last credit.
Jeez.
1981 or so. Yeah, he was probably like 75, 76 at the time. And this was his last film. I was like, "Is that Joseph Cotton?" I'm like,
"That's
God
like
damn,
probably the same feeling I
yes,
had
when
we were talking last episode about Field of Dreams and Burt Lancaster." I was like, "Is that Burt Lancaster?" He's like, "Isn't that Burt Lancaster's last movie? Is Field of Dreams?" It's close. It's close to the end. I know at least.
I'd have to look.
He might have done a couple more things, but. It's definitely close.
I just thought it was just fascinating. But I did get to see a couple more of these other films as well. I don't know if you got to see any more. I don't want to cut you off.
I don't
there.
think so. No.
Okay. Burt Lancaster's last film, if you're curious, is Field of Dreams. His last feature film.
Yeah.
He did do a TV movie, Voyage of Terror, the Akil Loro Affair. And he did a couple of TV stuff. Like his last official credit, Burt Lancaster, is Separate But Equal, the TV miniseries from 1991. But his last feature film was Field of Dreams.
Now, I have seen Francis Ha. I did see that from the Criterion.
Yes.
That's a great film. That's a great film.
Of Noah Baumbach. Very good. I did get to see Thirst.
Okay.
For those of you guessing, you're probably guessing true. It is about vampires and vampirism. Basically, this woman is she's like a descendant, and she's a descendant from some famous vampire or something like that. And this kind of cult of vampires are trying to get her to like commit to being a vampire. Yeah. Like they're like psychologically torturing her. They're trying to get her to drink blood to get the thirst.
Is this film?
And it's very surreal.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about with Surreal Cinema with Sabina. It's very surreal. Like you don't know what's going on most of the time because like there's so many fake outs where like, is it a dream sequence? Is it reality? She bites into a piece of chicken and blood spurts out. She takes a shower. There's blood. Yeah. There's blood everywhere in this movie.
Did this film have a release through Warner Archive? Or I might be thinking of a different film. But
there was another movie called Thirst that was released through Kino, which is a film from Park Chan-wook.
Okay.
Which is dealing with it's dealing with a priest who actually becomes a vampire.
Oh, that's cool.
Very, very metaphorical. It's a great movie. But it's also, of course, when you're dealing with vampirism, there's always a sexual element to it all.
Yeah.
You know,
I think of the film.
And they very much play that up.
I think of the film from Tony Scott, Hunger, is a really good vampire.
Very
sexual, surrealist.
That was Tony Scott's first film, I believe.
Yeah. But
very good film. Catherine Deneuve, David Bowie's in that film. Susan Sarandon, yes, is in there. I did also get to see Love Serenade. Talk about sex and things like that. Love Serenade stars Miranda Otto, like I said, from Lord of the Rings fame. This movie came out in 1996, I think. Yes, and basically Miranda Otto and her sister live next door to this guy who is this big shot DJ who's coming into the small town to take over the local radio station, and they're both infatuated with him. And so they both kind of have this literal sexual relationship with him and all that kind of stuff because he's kind of like the only available interesting person in that town. It's a super small town. No really other, I guess, other prospects, and they're both fascinated with him. And he's kind of just a sleazy, slimy kind of dude who like doesn't really care that he's like emotionally manipulating these two women who are clearly, starved for some type of romantic affection and whatnot. I thought it was really, really good.
Okay.
It's definitely something that I'm interested in. I like this Sunburnt Screens
Line.
sub-label line that they got going on.
All right.
And then Devil's Candy is a horror film, if you could guess, starring Ethan Embry. People may know Ethan Embry from Can't Hardly Wait. He was in Vegas Vacation.
Yeah.
He was in that show Brotherhood that was on Showtime for a few seasons. Yeah, you know who Ethan Embry is if you've seen him. Well, he basically plays this rock. He's into like heavy metal. Heavy metal has a big thing in this movie. Where he's like this painter and he has a family and they move into this house and there's some type of devil presence in there or some type of demonic presence in there starts to take hold of him. There's this other character that's also doing nefarious things, and it's a very haunting, film. I thought it had a very interesting premise and was going very, very curiously, and I was wondering, how they're going to unravel this mystery. What is this going on? And it ended up being kind of what you thought it was, and it ended up playing out very traditionally towards the end where, you got to escape a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
A bad guy and all this kind of stuff. A little disappointing there. But I thought it was done really well. And they played Metallica For Whom the Bell Tolls in the credits at the end. So it gives you that vibe.
There you go.
A lot of metal in that. But yeah, that's the slate for Umbrella from our standpoint. Very diverse.
Very I was gonna say eclectic. That's what they do. They got all these lines. All these labels have all these sub labels now, and they just keep trying to put out as many things as possible. So we praise them for that. Please keep doing your thing.
And when it comes to other kind of releases, there are kind of just a few things here and there. I think we'll save Kino for. Yeah. A little while later. There was another 88 films here that we didn't get to see called Flying Guillotine 2 is getting a release from them, a limited edition release. Caged Heat is getting a release from 101 Films. It was more random like that this week.
There's a few randoms that we don't really have time for. One thing I will bring up real quick is there is a new label from Australia that is just put out their first slate. Or they announced their first slate. They're called Chameleon Films.
Oh, I did see those.
Yeah, and I just wanted to shout them out because they're a new label and they have. It looks like they're focusing on Asian cinema in their label. And I'm trying to find what their it was. Here it is. They're Johnny 2 films. They got.
Oh yes.
Yeah, the Breaking News was one of them. Exiled, and then Summer Time Machine Blues were the 3 releases I think that they got coming out, and I think
I just found them.
Yeah. And I think 2 of the films are Johnny 2 films.
Yes, and Johnny 2. Yeah, I still don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah, of course he did the film that just came out through the Criterion Collection, the film that I talked about so much.
Hands.
Throwdown.
Throwdown. Hands. I don't know why.
Pretty sure
hands.
that's. Yeah, I mean throwing down
your
hands.
hands. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all a physical act.
But yeah, I just wanted to shout out Chameleon Films. They got this is their first slate coming out, and it looks like it's they're punching hard with that filmmaker. So that's pretty cool. I think
nice pun there.
Yeah. So they're. I think their first slate's maybe. I think initially it was supposed to be for June, but I think it got pushed to July for some setback reasons. But please keep check them out, see if you're interested, and more labels, please.
Yeah, they're straight new.
So
yeah, very very interesting, very cool, Stephen.
All right,
I didn't even know. I noticed them, but I didn't think we were bringing them up.
I just wanted to bring them up. I didn't want to get into the movies necessarily yet, but maybe in the future. But
sounds good.
Where can we find you, Andrew?
You can find me on Twitter at Kebzilla06. as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me at all the other Chasing Labels things, whether it be the Facebook page Facebook group. Me and Andrew are there talking with people. Please join that group. You can also find me at the Twitter page or the Instagram page or my letterboxd at Chasing Labels. You can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.